Hello there, my name is Pavlo Shtermach, and now we'll unveil the top news of recent days. Ukraine and Switzerland start preparations for the Global Peace Summit. At the level of leaders, it was stated by Volodymyr Zelenskyy following the meeting with the President of Switzerland, Viola Amherd. The President of Ukraine emphasized that this summit should provide the momentum for everything that has already been accomplished and make it certain that the end of the war can only be just and that the restoration of the force of international law must be truly comprehensive.
At today's meeting, we noted the successful work in the format of advisors on the peace formula. Switzerland effectively organized the meeting. There was a significant expansion of representation. Over 80 states and international institutions are involved already. As Mrs. President said, we appreciate that, and I am grateful to Mrs. President and her team for the agreements that our teams will start preparations for the Global Peace Summit at the level of leaders in Switzerland.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy has already arrived in Davos at the meeting of the annual World Economic Forum. He met with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Politicians discussed the steadfast support of the alliance in the defense against Russian invasion, and President of Ukraine thanked Mr. Stoltenberg for this support. Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Jens Stoltenberg discussed the situation on the battlefield. The president informed of the massive Russian shelling of Ukrainian cities and communities that had taken place recently. The head of state emphasized the importance of further bolstering the Ukrainian air defense system and discussed other defense needs of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Stoltenberg discussed preparations for the next NATO summit in Washington. The head of state emphasized that Ukraine expects decisions to be made that will bring its membership in NATO closer. Also, Volodymyr Zelenskyy took part in the CEOs for Ukraine meeting. The president informed the interlocutors of the economic growth of our country, which exceeded 5% in 2023, and optimistic forecasts for GDP growth for the current year. The president emphasized that Ukraine restored its export capabilities thanks to the functioning of a grain corridor independently from Russia. So we invite business representatives to invest in Ukraine and participate in its recovery. It is important to stand with us. It is very important to boost investment in Ukraine and support our economy. Especially, we have potential and prospects of military production. After all, Ukraine will be rebuilt. There is not much left just to win this war. Especially since Russia has no prospects for a further offensive, the Russian command sought to seize the initiative and achieve success at any cost. However, the attempts were unsuccessful. A month ago, a hotline with Putin was held in Moscow. In order for the dictator to have something to talk about, Russian troops were ordered to capture Avdiivka. A month has already passed, and the city still remains under Ukrainian control. At a very heavy price, with the daily losses of our defenders, but the losses of the Russians are still significantly higher. During December and January, the Russian army lost about 1,000 soldiers every day, not to mention armored vehicles, of which there is so little left that they have to transport personnel not in it, but on it. Attempts to capture Avdiivka have been going on for 3 months, not 1.5 months, and for 10 years.
На Авдіївському напрямку.
Avdiivka axis, the Ukrainian defenders continue to hold back the enemy who keeps trying to encircle Avdiivka. The Ukrainian soldiers are standing their ground and inflicting major losses on the occupiers. For instance, the Ukrainian defense forces repelled 18 attacks of the invaders in the vicinities of Novobakhmutivka, Stepove, Avdiivka, and 16 more attacks near Severne, Pervomaiske, and Nevelske.
By the way, returning to Putin's hotline, at that time he said that on the right bank of the Dnipro, in the Kherson region near the village of Krinky, Ukrainian troops had created a small bridgehead and that the Russians had several wounded there. But even now, a month later, the Ukrainian bridgehead remains. Moreover, the foothold of the defense forces on the right bank of the Dnipro became a real trap for the occupiers. Many Russian assault groups were destroyed there. It has been half a winter, and the enemy's missile attacks on the Ukrainian rear have achieved nothing. The terror campaign has proven ineffective, as it did last year. The Ukrainian defense forces demonstrate the ability to destroy even remote and complex targets on land, at sea, and in the air. Headquarters, ships, and aircraft. Today, Ukraine marks the day of remembrance of the defenders of the Donetsk Airport. The Ukrainian military defended their positions near the airfield for 242 days and left them only because of the meanness of Russians. They said they would take the bodies of their soldiers, but instead mined the building and blew it up. It is not for nothing that the slogan of the fighters at the airport is "People endured, concrete did not." Once again, in 2015, the Russians tried to capture one building for almost 8 months, and with such success, in 2022 they planned to capture Kyiv within 3 days. Also, I have a simple question for the Russian military leadership. Do you think that we will not be every meter of our land? Just imagine if our soldiers stood in one building for 242 days. How much time would it take to capture Avdiivka, or which settlement did they want to erase?
Я дякую вам, хлопці.
I also want to commend the warriors of the National Guard's Special Operations Center Omega, especially the guys who effectively carry out tasks on the Avdiivka direction, as well as all the warriors who fight on the Melitopol direction, reinforcing the units of the armed forces. Thank you for destroying the enemy, guys. I thank all your comrades, everyone who knows that independence is not a reward. Independence is gained by the brave.
We still don't know what we will call all the Ukrainian soldiers who are currently defending our country. Definitely winners. But I am sure that there will be another word to describe them too, because the defenders of the Donetsk airport will always be cyborgs for us, because only men of steel could withstand the onslaught of those battles. However, after those battles, our cyborgs continued to protect our land. They were among the first to go out to meet the enemy on February 24th. By the way, even the name cyborgs was invented by the Russians themselves. That's how they wanted to explain why armed pro-Russian fighters and disguised Russian military personnel could not break the resistance of the defenders of the airport. But as we can see now, our indomitability has become even greater, and in any case will withstand all the Russian onslaught. That concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated. Comment, like and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support really matters. Goodbye.